waxed and buffed, Georgian panelling in the dining room added and kept intact. Outside, the lichen-covered walls were stout, the thick slated roof was snug. A mahogany long-case clock with rolling moon phases stood guard in a corner of the large, square, stone-flagged hallway, 1760, James Thompson of Bristol, written on its face. There was a swag-and-drop cornice in the dining room and a honeysuckle and date-leaf one in the hall. The living room was half-panelled in dark oak, and in the big farmhouse kitchen the ancient cream Rayburn beamed comfort. The farm had been in his family for centuries. Now only the house was his, the field sold off years ago. Barbara had had no interest in taking over. She was a doctor, and he was proud of that. He had a granddaughter too, Genevieve, and even a great-granddaughter, Mabel, named for his wife's mother. She was a funny little thing. Reminded him of his wife. Witchy. There, he'd said the word. He carried his coffee into the back garden, the dog trailing anxiously at his heels. She didn't like to let him out of her sight these days. The garden was walled on two sides, sheltering it from the rugged weather coming off the hills, and on the third side there was a thick hedge of hawthorn, providing a windbreak for the bench that was sited there. The garden was a gentle, feminine preserve. His wife had devoted herself to the sweet peas and dahlias, old-fashioned English roses, every vegetable and herb under the sun. They had eaten well. Now the old man bought steak pies from the co-op in Richmond, or sometimes just ate baked beans, cold, from the tin, and a girl called Tabby, androgynous, in dungarees and with a shaved head, came up from the village and kept the garden tidy. She had all kinds of interesting views on things, none of which he shared, but they got on very well. The dog liked her. The old man sat on the bench to drink his coffee. Daisies and tiny violets pinpricked the lawn. They must have grown since Tabby was here last. Pretty, he said to the dog. The dog didn't require the baggage of grammar. The old man had never previously lived a life where there was time to sit in the sun. The dog whined softly, worried about something. The old man rubbed the top of her head with his knuckles. Who knew what thoughts a dog had? He wished she could talk. It was warm for this time of day and quiet. There were more than 300 swaledales out in the hills, and as many lambs, and more. Their bleating was the soothing background to the old man's life, but not one of them was making a sound this morning. No bird song, either. The dog sat at his feet, attentive, waiting for him to notice that there was something wrong. He glanced up and felt relieved to see a pair of early swallows high in the sky, swooping on a thermal. The dog got up and started pawing at the garden gate. Once, she would have been able to jump cleanly over the wall. "Come on then, old girl," he said. "Time for a walk." They went out of the back gate and straight up the hill. It was a hard climb. Both the old man and the old dog were stiff with arthritis. The dog had long ago retired from the fray. The sheep belonged to another, younger dog now. Foot and mouth had forced the old man to burn a whole flock once, a great pyre of roasted lamb and mutton. He had wept. He'd had a different dog then. What had she thought, he sometimes wondered, when she had seen her flock go up in flames? Meg was a conscientious dog and still suffered from the urge to chivvy and herd, although she was making no attempt to shepherd the sheep in the top field. Perhaps because none of them were moving. As they drew nearer, the old man could see that they were all lying down. "What's wrong with them?" he murmured, glancing at the dog, the expert on sheep behaviour. The dog's ears twitched, but otherwise she seemed as baffled as he was. The flock looked as though it had been pushed over by a giant hand. When he was a child, so long ago his life was no longer his life, it was history, he'd been given a wooden Noah's Ark, and he had a sudden, unexpected memory of the pleasure he had taken in lining up all the animals and then knocking them over like dominoes, all the way from the elephants down to the tiny mice. What had happened to the Ark? Everything was lost eventually and only sometimes found. There was something very wrong. The old man could feel his heart jittery in his chest.